Thanks, Minister, my question is around the interim report by the Independent Review Group in relation to sexual abuse in the Defence Forces. Obviously, this is the most serious of matters, and obviously the Women of Honour have brought this to the attention not only of the Army but obviously the State. So they want to know, I suppose, an update in relation to the interim report that you probably have seen. Thank you.
Yeah, Deputy, thanks for raising this question, because it gives me an opportunity to put on the record of the House where we are in relation to this, because this is a hugely serious issue from my perspective that we're trying to deal with in a way that's very comprehensive. The Deputy will be aware that I'm committed to ensuring that every member of the Defence Forces is able to carry out their duties in a workplace underpinned by dignity and equality. The judge-led independent review group established last January by me, following government approval, is examining the systems, policies and procedures for dealing with issues relating to bullying, discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment and sexual misconduct in the Defence Forces, as well as the prevailing workplace culture. I'm sure that the Deputy will appreciate that this review is a necessary and critical first step to address the need for a safe work environment for serving members with zero tolerance for such unacceptable behaviour. The serving members of the Defence Forces expect nothing less. I have received 9 updates from the Independent Review Group, including when they asked for a 4th member to assist in completing their work. This request was approved. In line also with the terms of reference, I've also been briefed via an interim report and at the request of the group. This will not be published as its work is not fully complete. It would be inappropriate, therefore, for me to discuss that interim report. I wish to add that the work of the Independent Review Group is entirely independent in keeping with the terms of reference. The group have full independence and autonomy to undertake this body of work under its chair, Ms Justice Brona O'Hanlon. I can assure the Deputy that the work of the group is ongoing and the final report is expected to be submitted to me before the end of the year in line with the terms of reference. I wish to add also that the terms of reference for the review are wide-ranging and provide that Government may consider further work on receipt of the independent review findings. As I've already said, I'm very eager for this work to conclude and would reiterate that the final report will be brought to Government before being published. But I look forward to the report being the basis of the next stage of actions in terms of dealing with this issue.
Thank you, Minister. And obviously, Minister, as you stated, these allegations are of the most, the utmost seriousness in relation to our Defence Forces. And I think there is a frustration in relation to the interim report. I think the Women of Honour, the women that have made these allegations, would like to see that interim report. And I think they have every justification to see that report. My understanding that a number of other victims have come forward in the meantime, making allegations of the most serious nature against individuals in the Defence Forces. So I think it's imperative that, in order for the process to proceed, if with confidence, that the women see this interim report, see where it's going, and see is it going in the direction where then women want, accountability and justice for women that have been subjected to this pretty awful conduct in the Defence Forces. Thank you.
Yeah, Deputy, I can understand that sentiment, and I can understand people wanting to know where this report is at and the direction of travel in terms of thought and recommendations. The Independent Review Group themselves asked that interim report would not be published because their work isn't complete, and so to publish or to make publicly available a piece of work that's not concluded and not finalised is something that they were concerned about. We don't have much longer to wait. In a few weeks' time, we'll have the full report. I hope to be able to act on that quickly. I expect that the report will be responding with the seriousness that you would expect to the stories that they've been hearing and the evidence that they've collected. I would encourage all interested parties to interact with the independent review group to make sure that they get as complete a picture as possible, so that they can make recommendations that can allow the Defence Forces to move forward and for government to make the appropriate decisions. I said at the start of this process that the independent review group was not going to be the start and the end of this process. They're effectively going to map out the course of actions that we should be taking on the back of of the evidence that they've looked at, and I hope to be able to move to that phase as soon as we get the report and as soon as I bring it to government.
Deputy Kent.
Thank you, Minister. And Minister, I think, from the outset there has been issues in relation to terms of reference in relation to the review. Obviously, you can't compel witnesses, is my understanding. So there is a kind of, I think, a bit of a failure in relation to that. But if the women of honour at this juncture don't have full confidence in the kind of review group in relation to the interim report, then that kind of it sets alarm bells off for the people that made these allegations not to be kind of included in that kind of interim report. I think it could falter, and I know you've said this is not the kind of the end or the beginning, but a process that wants to see accountability for these kind of grave actions that were subjected to women. So I think it's important for the women of honour to be given confidence and given kind of, I suppose, transparency in relation to a report that ultimately is about them. It's ultimately about what happened to them and their peer group. So it's very, very important that there's confidence in this process. Thanks.
Minister, to conclude.
Yeah, no, that is true. This group, of course, are looking at historical cases and how we should deal with those in a comprehensive manner to establish truth and so on. They're also looking at current practices within the Defence Forces, culture within the Defence Forces, procedures within the Defence Forces. As an employer, I have an obligation towards people who are currently serving in the Defence Forces to make sure that I act on recommendations to modernise the Defence Forces, to change a culture that has been there, that needs to change, and to ensure that everything from complaints procedures to dealing with historical investigations and so on, that all of that is done in a comprehensive way. That's what this review group is doing, and has spoken to, by the way, quite a number of serving personnel and former Defence Force personnel, and I would certainly hope that the Women of Honour group will interact fully with this independent group, so that their recommendations can be trusted by all interested parties. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. There's nothing hidden about this. There's no agendas there apart from to establish truth and to make the appropriate changes for the future.